What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the changes to Madden 20 via the latest title update. People have been asking, is the game better? Is it worse? Did these things really make a change? And this was arguably the biggest update we've had so far this year. So I'm going to talk about kind of the state of the game, something controversial that EA added to the game that a lot of people aren't happy about, and a little bit more. So if you are new to the channel and you want to make sure to be up to date on all the latest Madden news, tips, and everything else, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you never miss any of the uploads. So this was, like I said, arguably the biggest update of the year in terms of just, you know, the amount of things that were done in the update, but also this was the biggest shift to the gameplay, or at least attempted shift to the gameplay. Certain things about the gameplay definitely changed, but I don't think everything that they attempted to do actually worked. So the biggest thing with this was supposed to be the update that brought balance to the run game. Not nerfed it, but kind of balanced it and fixed some of the issues with it. Now, this is what it said they tried to do. So one of the main things was they reintroduced stumbling for ball carriers in specific situations, meaning if you ran into traffic, like ran into the back of your offensive line, you're not hitting your holes correctly, you're running into the back of maybe your wide receivers who are blocking, you were going to stumble more often, whereas previously you would never stumble at all. And the biggest issue with this is that the pursuit angles are really bad in Madden 20. It's one of the probably worst things about Madden 20, and it's why it's easier to run the ball, because the pursuit angles just aren't very good. So when you would run into the back of your lineman, because the pursuit is so bad, they would just never really pursue you the right way. It would kind of almost make the pursuit worse, and then you could kind of just get out of there and get yards, to the point where people were purposely running into the back of their lineman because it actually would help you more than it would hurt you. So they tried to reintroduce stumbling back in to kind of balance that back out, which I thought was a good thing. The problem here is, though, is ball carriers are very rarely stumbling. I've played the game a lot since the update, especially over the weekend. I got a good sample size, and I've also talked to a bunch of other people, and the stumbling, it's not happening nearly enough for it to really move the needle. Since the last 4 days of playing this game a good bit, I can count on both hands the amount of times I've seen somebody stumble, whether it be myself or my opponent. It does happen a little bit more often now, but like I said, not enough to move the needle at all. The other thing they did or tried to do was that they tuned to reduce the frequency of auto broken tackles versus AI controlled and user controlled defenders when using conservative tackles. So meaning when you're not going for a big hit stick or anything, you're just trying to wrap up, stay in front, wrap up, just put them down. They were supposed to decrease the auto broken tackles, meaning that you as the ball carrier aren't trying to perform a broken tackle. It's just you're bouncing off of a guy, or you're just getting a good animation with your ball carrier that is nothing to do with your input on the controller. It's just an auto broken tackle. In my opinion, I'm still seeing a lot of auto broken tackles. Maybe it has been reduced, but again, I think it's one of those, just like the first thing we covered, not enough to move the needle, in my opinion. I'm still seeing a lot of auto broken tackles in situations where I don't really feel like they should be happening. Now, the one thing they did that actually did make a difference was they tuned the basically the ball carrier from when you cover the ball with your ball carrier, right? You hold the RB or R1 button to secure the ball so that you don't fumble. Before the update, you could cover the ball and still retain top speed, which is impossible. There's no way you can run top speed when you're hugging the football. It's just not possible. But before the update, you were able to do that, meaning you could still run at full speed, and because you were covering the ball, you would by default break more tackles, but you would have no chance of fumbling because you're covering the ball, but you're still running at top speed. So they finally fixed that, and now you do move a lot slower when you're covering the ball, which definitely helps a little bit. But that is about the only thing in this update that I feel really helped the run game. Even the new run defensive abilities they put in, they don't really seem to be all that effective in my opinion. They're okay, but it's nothing that, again, is really moving the needle. But speaking on the run game as a whole, is the run game today worse than it was the first month of the game? It absolutely is, for a bunch of reasons, and it's not because of this update, but it's just the culmination of all these little updates. They've done tons of updates over the past, like, what, 2.5 months, little tuning and adjusting here. The run game isn't nearly as good as the first month. One reason being is because the armbar and the jukebox ability aren't as good today as they were the first month of the game. Armbar was glitched, you could spam it and pretty much break almost every tackle. That's not the case anymore. I can't even remember the last game where I got armbarred to death. I cannot remember because it's been that long. I don't even play a lot of people that use it anymore. Most people are kind of shifting towards the more evasive running backs because they're just better. So armbar is not really that much of an issue anymore. Jukebox still works good, but not how it worked the first month of the game. It was it was almost impossible to tackle someone when they juked with jukebox the first month of the game. Now, a good bit of the time you get sucked into the tackle. Like, you get sucked into a two-man animation tackle, like where they kind of hug you and just bring you to the ground. I see that happen a ton, both to me and my opponents. Yes, it's still very effective, but it's, again, not as effective as it was. And then when you combine that with the fact, what I've noticed is people just have better run defense now. People have actually, try to figure out how to stop the run, because in the past couple of years, they didn't really have to think that much about it because block sheds kind of took care of it for you. Now, people have like finally committed to stopping the run, and it's a lot harder to run the ball now because they're actually like they're doing what they have to do to stop it, and they're able to stop it. In fact, when I play somebody that just wants to run the ball, that is the most confident I feel playing this game. I feel like I could win that game 100 out of 100 times because I know I have run defense, and I see some of the best players in the world, the ones that are consistently, making runs in competitive events or winning them. They have really good run defense, and it's hard to run. Sure, you could still get lucky, break some big runs, break some tackles, and you could still win games without having to pass very often. It still happens, but I feel confident in stopping the run. If I get unlucky, I get unlucky, but I know that I can stop the run. Now, where I feel like I'm not confident is when I'm actually playing a passer who has an escape artist quarterback. And I've been saying this for over a month now, the biggest issues with Madden 20 are in the passing game, not the running game, but people just aren't seeing it because so many people have opted to run because it's just easier and less risky to run this year. But now when you start seeing people pass more, you're going to see these issues. Like, the escape artist QB, if there was one thing that always needed to be patched or fixed in this game that wasn't just a flat out game breaking like bug or something of that nature, it's been escape artist. Escape artist is the most overpowered thing in the game because it pretty much gives your quarterback like 99 speed behind the line of scrimmage and great agility. Contains cannot catch them, spies cannot catch them. You can have an 82 speed quarterback, but if he has escape artist, he will literally outrun a 90 plus speed safety who is in a QB spy because your quarterback essentially has 99 speed, at least until he crosses the line of scrimmage. But with that momentum that you get, if you scramble up between like the running lanes and then you break to the sideline, even versus a safety that's 8 or 10 speed faster than you, you could still outrun him for a good like 4 to 5 yards and get positive yards every time, even though the defense is committed to stopping your escape artist. Contains cannot catch them. You can blitz literally 7 people and have the outside guys in contain. So you're blitzing the gaps. You got the outside linebackers in contains who are fast. You can't catch the escape artist. At best, you're going to force them to just throw the ball away. If you're playing anyone that's decent with an escape artist QB, you're not going to sack them ever. Even if you catch them napping and you play it perfectly, because they can just literally run backwards and you cannot catch them. And the second part of this problem is when you force them into a bad pass. Okay, well now you won. You force them into a bad pass, they throw it into coverage. You're not going to intercept the ball nearly enough. The offense wins that battle the majority of the time by either catching the ball or getting lucky enough to have an incompletion. And it doesn't matter if you are using properly, you are in good position, you time it right. Once that ball's in the air, especially when it's going into traffic, whether it be one-on-one defender and receiver, or it could be double coverage, triple coverage, it doesn't matter. Once that ball gets near you, almost every time you're going to get pulled into some type of a two-man or like a group animation, and at that point, it's literally like a three-sided coin flip. Either the offense is going to catch it, it's going to be incomplete, or you're going to pick it off, but you have no control over that outcome. The only time you have somewhat control is when you don't get sucked into an animation where you get in front and you're actually able to go up and get the ball. And here's an example of a clip of that right here where I didn't actually get pulled into an animation with my user. Guy's double covered, QB throws it up, I'm usering underneath, I turn around, I get in position, I time it, I even secure the ball and bring it in, and then the ball just drops out of my hands. Just like, it's almost like he just lets the ball go. And that is something that happens multiple times a game. That was a situation where a two-man animation didn't override it, so I was able to actually like make the play on the ball without being forced into some type of weird animation, and he still dropped the ball. And that's an issue because in this game, when it's already hard to contain escape artist QBs, and it's hard to stay over the top receivers that have abilities like streak specialists, and it's hard to get them to drop the ball because if you have streak specialists, you get better catch in traffic percentages because of the ability. And you actually are able to get your hands on the ball, or you're able to get in good position, but you get sucked into an animation, you have no control over what you're doing on defense. It's all just based up to the dice roll. And that's something I've hated about Madden for years, and it's still rearing its ugly head this year. So like I said, the run game is never really been the problem with Madden to me. People, like, yes, it's easy to run the ball, but it's also easy to stop it if you commit to it. In the passing game, you can play perfect defense, but you will still not catch an escape artist QB. And even if you get him to throw a bad pass, you're leaving it up to just a random dice roll whether or not you come down with the pick the far majority of the time. And that is what makes it very hard to play defense against something like that. And that kind of just brings us to abilities as a whole, because they also introduced the Most ability with this update, which is an X Factor ability, and it's really the only X Factor that's actually a problem in the game. Most of the abilities that are problems are the passive ones. The X Factor ones you don't see as much because you have to activate them, but the thing with this ability is once you activate this, any catch that goes 50 or plus yards, like if you throw the ball 50 or plus yards on a streak, you will literally catch it over the entire defense. You could have 4 or 5 guys on them. You're going to catch it almost every time. And I put this on my receiver and I tested it out for the past few days, just purposely trying to get him in the zone so I could use it. Once he gets in the zone, it's game over. And it's purposely put in the game. If you read the patch notes, it says it right there. When you get this guy in the zone, he will make the catch over any coverage. And it's to the point where, like, if you get this guy in the zone, people will literally run backwards. Like, if you're within the 50, they will run backwards, lose yards, get outside of the 50 just so they could throw this up, because that's how consistent it is. When I've used this over the past few days, anytime that I've activated this, I have not dropped the ball one time, no matter how many people were on my wide receiver. And there's clips that you'll see on the screen. It is that consistent. Nothing stops it. You have to pray to God for somehow that pass to be incomplete. And until it's incomplete, he's going to stay in the zone. So once you activate this, it's essentially game over, at least on the offensive side of the ball, because all you got to do is block everybody, wait 2 seconds, throw up a lob streak, hold a button, and it's a catch. And the thing with this is, when they sold us on abilities at the beginning of the year, they said there would be balance. This does not have balance, just like Escape Artist doesn't have balance. There's really no counter. They said Contains and Spies would contain Escape Artist. It doesn't. They said with this ability right here, well, if you have a good DB that has like a zone or a man ability, it'll defend it better. It doesn't. The Most ability overrides literally everything, to the point where EA actually pretty much banned it from competitive play, because they made the cost for it so expensive and competitive salary cap that you can't even use it. So that's basically them saying that they know that this has no place in competitive play, yet they still purposely put it into the game, knowing that any online environment is a competitive environment. You're trying to have best player win, and they purposely put it in the game. And you know, at the beginning of the year when we saw some of these crazy X Factor super abilities, they were like, oh, it's going to be hard to activate them, right? You'll need 3 catches of 30 plus yards. That's hard to do. Getting a 30-yard catch is very hard to do. But when the game came out, it actually turned out to be 3 catches of 20 plus yards. That's significantly easier. But then the kicker to that is, like, at least in Ultimate Team, you can equip other abilities on your player like Homer or Indoor Baller. When you play in those settings, now it reduces what you have to do to get in the zone, meaning you only need 2 catches of 20 plus yards to get the Moss ability activated, and that is not very hard. I can do that on the first drive of the game, and even if it does take me all game to eventually get that guy in the zone, once he's in the zone, it's especially if the game is anywhere near close, it's game over. You're not going to stop me, because he will catch it every time, and that is not balanced at all. The reason the best abilities are the best abilities is because they're the ones that aren't balanced. Edge threat pass rushers are so good because nothing can stop them. If you have offensive tackles with pass blocking abilities, they do not win. You could argue the pass blocking ability guys get beat worse than the guys who don't have abilities. It's really weird. That's why edge threat's so good. The reason Enforcer is so good on defense is because if you get near him, it's an auto hit stick, and there's a likelihood of a fumble. Auto hit stick, nothing you can do about it. He's gonna take you out. The reason Escape Artist is so good is because Contains and Spies can't catch it. You can't really blitz it because you can outrun the blitz, because he's literally like 99 speed. The reason the Most ability for X Factor is so good is because if you know what you're doing, it's not that hard to activate, and once it's activated, there is no balance. So honestly, that's just my take on the state of the game. I don't think this update did that much to the run game, but I do think if you at least try to have run defense, it's not hard to stop the run, while on the other side, the passing game is taking a turn for the worse, and that's where the biggest issues are, and it seems as though they're not really addressing those issues, at least yet, and they're actually making them worse by adding things that really don't have place in a game that isn't like NFL Street. So all in all, you know, there's other problems with the gameplay. There will be every year, but I think if the overpowered abilities, the few that there are, were balanced, I think the gameplay would be really solid this year, and I think that's really the one thing that's hurting the gameplay, are the few abilities that are unbalanced. But that's my take on the game. Let me know what you think below, and as always, I will see you guys next time.